One of these is an Apple Watch. Can you tell which one? How about now? What about now? Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave from Chase Summit, and today we're going to compare two Square watches. We've got the relatively new Garmin Venu SQ along with the Apple Watch SE. From a high level, these watches seem so similar, but once you dig into it a little bit, they're definitely designed for different people. Before we dig into this, if you find this video helpful or entertaining, please give me a thumbs up down below and consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. As a full disclosure, neither of these watches were given to me. I purchased both with my own money, so I have no incentive to give them a good review. However, if you do decide you want to pick one of these watches up, please use the links down in the description as it does support my channel. Okay, so I thought I'd compare these two watches because they're so similar looking and they're at a very similar price point. The Garmin Venu SQ Music that I have here retails for $250 and the Apple Watch SE retails for $279. There is a version of the Garmin Venu SQ that doesn't have music for just $200, but I thought having that music feature was a bit more comparable to the Apple Watch. And actually, in terms of music, the Garmin Venu SQ does a lot more. That's kind of a spoiler. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Garmin took a pretty big departure with the Venu SQ. They do offer the Venu, which is a bit more expensive than the Venu SQ, has a few more features and a brighter AMOLED screen, but the Venu SQ is kind of its own unique thing. As you can see here, the Venu SQ has a really vibrant LCD display. This is not OLED, but it's still really nice. And when you compare the displays between the Venu SQ and the Apple Watch, yes, the Apple Watch does have a much brighter display, but there's nothing wrong with the Venu SQ display. It's still really nice. Looking at the hardware of the two watches, they're pretty similar looking, of course, but they are made of different materials. The Apple Watch SE is basically entirely aluminum. It's got this aluminum side along with a glass front and back, whereas the Garmin Venu SQ has glass on the front with an aluminum bezel along with plastic sides and back. Around the back of the device, you can see that the Garmin Venu SQ has Garmin's proprietary charger. It's the same as like a Garmin Fenix 6 or a Forerunner, and of course the Elevate heart rate sensor that also has an SpO2 sensor built into it. That's a pretty big advantage because the Apple Watch SE only has a heart rate sensor, no SpO2 sensor, unless you step up to the more expensive Apple Watch Series 6. And it seems like everyone's paying attention to SpO2 nowadays, where it didn't seem to matter just a few months ago. The Garmin Venu SQ has quick release bands. You can basically pop these off with your fingernail. There's a whole variety of colors and types of these available on Amazon. It's a pretty generic size. It's a 20mm quick release strap. I'll link some down in the description if you want to go check those out. The Apple Watch SE, on the other hand, has Apple's proprietary band that you can also pop off pretty easily, and there are a ton of these available from Amazon or direct from Apple. I'm not a fan of this style band in particular. I hate this like press through rivet design where you have to kind of pop it on through the holes. It's just really difficult for me and I find myself struggling with it a little bit. The Garmin Venu SQ has the standard watch band with the clasp at the top, and I just prefer this design, but that's just me, you know? As far as the interface goes on the Apple Watch SE, it's Apple Watch OS, and this is super fluid, super responsive, and it's tightly integrated with the Apple iPhone. So this is basically not an option if you have an Android phone, which kind of stinks. But the great thing is, if you do have an iPhone, you can actually find the iPhone from your watch. You can read your emails, for instance. You can do all kinds of stuff that are directly tied to the iPhone itself. There are so many smart features built into the Apple Watch SE that I can't really list them all in this video. It's like an unlimited amount. You can download an app for basically everything. You can view your photos, you can emails and text messages. You can actually take calls from the device itself and talk into your wrist. It does all kinds of things, and that's really the standout feature of the Apple Watch SE. When you look at the Garmin Venu SQ, it's a much simpler interface, but it's still really responsive and fluid. This is basically the same interface you get on basically every Garmin watch, like a Fenix model or a Forerunner, but they prettied it up a little bit to be featured on a color touch display like this. The watch face on the Garmin Venu SQ can be fully customized to show you all kinds of data. Right now I have it set up to have my battery life, my steps for the day, the date, and the sunset. And out of the box you get a bunch of widgets pre-installed by default. You've got a widget for My Day that's like a summary of your steps and calories burned for the day. You have your health stats like your heart rate, stress, body battery, and respiration rate. You've got your activity history for all of your previous runs and rides. You've got your current heart rate with your max and min. You've got your body battery, which is like a way of measuring how much energy you have remaining in your day. You've got your hydration widget that lets you log how much water you've been drinking for the day. You've got a calendar widget that integrates with Google or iOS to show you what's going on for the rest of your day. Of course, you've got your weather widget, which is actually really nice looking on the Venu SQ because of that color touch display. This also gives you a forecast for the day by hour and also also for the following days. You've got your notifications widget, which shows you your notifications from your phone, like text messages or Facebook comments. And then you've got the music widget, and this can be used to control the music on your phone, from Spotify, or from other platforms that are supported by Garmin. Now, the thing about the Apple Watch SE is you can't actually use offline music unless you use the Apple Music service. So if you use like Spotify, for instance, you can't store Spotify music on the Apple Watch SE to play it without your phone. You can control your phone from the Apple Watch SE, but you can't actually store any music on the device itself. And that's where the Garmin Venu SQ comes in. It can store Spotify music without needing your phone. That's pretty cool. But if you are an Apple Music subscriber, the Apple Watch SE is really seamless with that service. Another big difference between these devices is actually tracking activities. So Garmin is pretty straightforward with this, where Apple is a little bit foggy. Here's a list of activities I can do between the two devices. I'm not going to read all of them, but there's enough here to cover all your bases between running, biking, yoga, whatever. The thing is, the activities are a lot more customizable on the Garmin. You can actually go through and choose what you want to see on each data page, and there's a lot more to choose from. You can customize the activities on the Apple Watch SE as well, but you actually have to do it from your phone. You can't do it from the watch itself, and the list of data fields is actually pretty limited. Something to keep in mind though is if you don't love the activity tracker that's built into the Apple Watch SE with Apple Health, you can actually download third-party applications like Work Outdoors. This is actually my favorite app on the Apple Watch SE to track activities. This app actually solves all the problems I have with the Apple Watch SE in terms of being an activity tracker. In Work Outdoors, there's a whole bunch of activities to choose from, and there's also a way to customize each activity pretty intensely. You can put in all kinds of different data fields, and you can actually download offline mapping to do some navigation when you're out in the woods and you don't have cell reception. Keep in mind, this is a $5 app. This doesn't come on your Apple Watch SE, but it is available. The Garmin Venu SQ does have a form of basic navigation, but it's definitely not full-blown mapping. It's not even breadcrumb mapping where you get a little squiggly line of where you've been. It is basically just an arrow that kind of points in the direction of your location where you want to be. So for instance, if you were camping, you could kind of save the location of your campsite, then you could wander off into the woods to go bathroom, and then you could find your way back to your tent. But that's about it. It's not meant for anything more than that. Both the Venu SQ and Apple Watch SE are compatible with external sensors like heart rate sensors. One major difference between the Apple Watch SE and the Garmin Venu SQ is battery life. The Apple Watch SE can track about 5 or 6 hours in GPS mode at like one continuous run, and you get about a day, maybe 2 days of battery life on standby mode, which isn't great for me. I hate charging my watch every day of the week. The Garmin Venu SQ can track up to 14 hours of GPS on time, which is really impressive for a watch like this with a bright display. That's good for distances, for marathon, 50K, up to 50 miler, maybe even 100K if you run fast enough. And the big kicker is that the Garmin Venu SQ can get up to 5 or 6 days on a single charge in standby or smartwatch mode, which is a big difference from that 1 or 2 days that you get with the Apple Watch SE. That might be a big enough factor for someone to pick this over this in the long run. All right, let's talk about the apps that come along with the Apple Watch SE and the Garmin Venu SQ. The Garmin Venu SQ integrates with Garmin Connect, which is a dedicated app that tracks all of your activities and your wellness data. The Garmin Connect app is really well laid out, and it works really seamlessly with the Garmin Venu SQ. Another benefit here is you can tie this in with all of your other Garmin devices if you have Garmin bike computers or other Garmin watches, and all that data will be synced together. For instance, if I go on a run with my Garmin Fenix 6 that I'm wearing right now, it'll be synced over to Garmin Connect, and that mileage will be shown on the Garmin Venu SQ as well. It's a really good ecosystem and a really polished experience overall. This home screen is fully customizable. You can hide and show any of these data fields, and you can lay it out exactly as you want it to be. The Garmin Venu SQ is also compatible with Garmin Pay, so you can pay for stuff with the watch itself without having to dig out your credit card. The Apple Watch SE is also capable of doing this with Apple Pay. That's just a high-level overview of the Garmin Connect app. It's a really well laid out app, and I really enjoyed the experience. Now let's take a look at the Apple Health app that ties in with the Apple Watch SE. Here you can see my stats for the day. You've got my exercise and standing time. You've also got my sleep data here. You've got my steps for the day. And then you have highlights, which are some activities from the past week. And what's interesting here, it shows activities from all of the platforms. So you can even see Garmin Connect workouts. You see Polar here, and then you've got Work Outdoors at the top here. Below that, you can see my heart rate from my past workout, which shows my max and min as well. You've got my steps for the last 7 days. Again, I haven't been wearing this watch every day, so it's not really accurate, but it gives you an average of what's been going on for the past week. Below that, you've got a couple of unique options. You've got your medical ID. This is interesting. You can set this up so that if you collapse on the ground, first responders could get a medical history pretty quickly just from your phone. Under that, you've got a way to set up irregular rhythm notification, where if you start to have an irregular heart rate rhythm, it'll notify you on your wrist so you can panic and dial 911, I guess. There's also a hand washing reminder, which is kind of important these days. We can also jump over to the Activities app, and this shows your trends for the past day, week, month, and year, which is pretty cool. From here, you can browse through various health activities that are coming from your watch data. There's a lot going on there. For instance, if I click on sleep, you've got trends for the past week. You've also got trends for the past month, which is pretty cool. And that's kind of the Apple Watch ecosystem in a nutshell. The app is very well polished. Of course, it's Apple. They know what they're doing. But I feel like Garmin just gives you a lot more data on the homepage right off the bat to make it a little bit easier to digest what's going on for the day or the week. Okay, let's talk about GPS accuracy for a second. After all, these are activity trackers, right? What you're looking at here is the Garmin Venu SQ in purple, the Apple Watch SE in that kind of green color, and then the Polar H9 chest strap in red. The Polar H9 chest strap is a chest strap heart rate sensor that was paired to my phone, so that'll be super accurate, and we'll use that as a baseline of comparison here. As you can see from a high level, it all looks really good. There's not a whole lot of deviation from the big picture perspective, but let's zoom in and see if we can nitpick a little bit. One area that optical heart rate sensors usually struggle with is that right at the beginning of an activity where your heart rate like ramps up quickly. Let's take a look at that here. Zooming in, you can see the Polar H9 chest strap reacting the quickest here, followed by the Apple Watch, it looks like, and then the Garmin Venu SQ. But they all come up to speed really quickly, so it's really not that bad on any of them. Further down the line, you can see I start to walk a little bit here, so let's zoom in and see how that is. You can see that we're floating around 148 beats per minute, and then it drops down quickly to around 114 beats per minute, and they all react really well here. The Apple Watch SE kind of struggles a little bit on the uphill here, but it gets up to speed pretty quickly. Let's zoom in near the end here and see if there's any other issues. You know, they look really good. Both the Garmin Venu SQ and the Apple Watch SE in this test look really comparable, and they're keeping up with the Polar H9 chest strap pretty well. This is just one sample to show you, but I have run with both these watches several times, and I haven't really seen any major issues in terms of heart rate data. Now that we've covered heart rate data, let's take a look at GPS data. Here's a track from a recent run I did wearing both the Garmin Venu SQ and the Apple Watch SE. You can see the Garmin Venu SQ in orange and the Apple Watch SE in blue here. It seems like the Garmin Venu SQ is keeping a straighter line where the Apple Watch SE looks a little bit more jittery. On this segment, it seems like the Apple Watch SE is a little bit more accurate than the Garmin Venu SQ. On this sharp corner, you can see that the Apple Watch SE keeps a tight corner here, and the Garmin Venu SQ is off in the woods a little bit. Here, I actually did an out and back around the high school parking lot, and you can see I did a sharp corner here where the Apple Watch just looks a little bit more accurate. And in this area, I actually did a couple of laps around a parking lot to get an idea of how they'd stack up, tracking on top of themselves. Both tracks are actually almost right on top of themselves, so that's a pretty good indication. You can see the Garmin actually wanders a little bit up in this corner, but it's not that bad at all. So yeah, I think in terms of GPS tracking, they're both perfectly adequate. They're both not perfect, but they both do a decent enough job for casual running. Okay, this is getting kind of long-winded. Let's break it down. At the end of the day, which one's better, the Garmin Venu SQ or the Apple Watch SE? Well, I think that depends. These watches are really for two different people. If you want a smartwatch first and an activity tracker second, I would say go with the Apple Watch SE if you have an Apple iPhone. If you have an Android device, this simply isn't an option. The Garmin Venu SQ is less of a smartwatch and more of an activity and fitness tracker and wellness tracker. It's a little easier to track your activities, your sleep data, and it's easier to digest all of that data because it's all laid out right on the screen and in the app. If you're more interested in tracking your workouts and your runs and your rides, and you want a bit more battery life to track those runs and rides, I think the Garmin Venu SQ is the right device for you. That rhymed. The Apple Watch SE can do all of that stuff too, but it has a whole bunch of other features that kind of get in the way of focusing on just that stuff. In either case, both these watches are really awesome, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I mean, you can do just about everything with the Apple Watch SE that you can do on the Garmin Venu SQ. And again, this is purely my opinion. I'm just sharing what I think about these two devices after using them for a few weeks. Okay, that about wraps it up for today. If you made it to the end of this video, please give me a thumbs up down below because you obviously liked it, and consider hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. And if you are interested in picking one of these watches up, I will have links down in the description that do help support my channel, but they cost nothing extra to you. I think I'm done now. I'll see you next time.